So I wanted to talk about 10 different plot points or major twists that could really make Avengers Doomsday bigger than Infinity War. And I just wanted to go through these concepts one by one to really show how they could pivot the MCU. So starting with the first option here, I think it would be really neat to see Doom going head to head against some of the other MCU villains. I think one of the major ones would be to get an immediate battle between a Thanos variant, preferably King Thanos, and I really think this would first establish Doom's real rise to power, and it would also really set the stage that Doom is more powerful than Thanos if he was able to defeat him here, and I think this would also just be a great hook for the movie overall. And then immediately following this, I think a second idea which would be really neat to see in the movie is Doom clashing with the TVA and Loki or even some other King variants. And I think this could really lead to Doom overthrowing the TVA and Loki, and I think that would also make for another interesting clash. And I think this would also set up the third idea, which would be Loki having to leave his position as the leader of time, and along with potentially the Fantastic Four, if they are likely escaping their universe, if they lost to Galactus, I could see both Loki and or the Fantastic Four having to reveal themselves to the Avengers and really explaining what happened and the real threat of Doom in relation to a potential multiversal collapse. And I also think it would be neat to see Loki reuniting with the Avengers and potentially using his knowledge of what happened with the TVA to really benefit and to align himself with the Avengers going forward. And I think all of this potentially in the first 20 to 30 minutes of the movie could really set the stage. Another thing I think would be really neat here is, even though Doom would arguably be the most powerful villain in the MCU at this point, I still think he would bring his own army to really clash with the growing Avengers members to really implement his multiversal plan. And I think this could be done by Doom bringing his own Avengers members, and this could potentially be evil Avengers from other universes or multiverses to form his own army. So I think it would be really neat to see some of the Avengers in this fashion and really to set up a potential conflict between the two rival sides for the end of the movie. And then I think at this point it would also be really neat to set up the next point, which would be a really good Doom backstory. I don't think this would necessarily have to take too much screen time, but I do think it would be something that would be neat to touch upon. I think the most likely theory for this would be Dr. Doom revealing himself as a Tony Stark variant or something similar to this. And also in relation, I do think it would be really neat if part of Doom's backstory really involved him coming from a completely different timeline, not just another universe. And I think with a lot of the leaked concept art, if they are going in the direction of a more medieval or a fantastical Doom, along with his allies, potentially some Avengers variants, I think this would be a neat stylistic choice. And I think it would also help to create a better contrast between the Avengers and Doom's team. But I think on the other side of that, another neat point would be seeing some good variants of the Avengers really coming to their aid throughout the movie. And I think this could, on one hand, really fill in some of the gaps and some of the missing Avengers members. I think a Black Panther variant would be neat. I think also a good Iron Man variant or a Captain America variant would be really neat to fill in on their absences, in addition to a Black Widow variant. The same could also be done for Wanda if she's not returning somehow. And I think this could be effective whether it's the same actors or even slightly a different actor playing some of these roles. And in relation to the Avengers, I also think it would be really neat to see both Deadpool and Wolverine join the team as well. I think the Avengers are definitely going to be bigger than they've ever been with the introduction of the Thunderbolts team and the Fantastic Four along with the X-Men, but I think it is heavily teased that Wolverine and Deadpool are going to join the Avengers at some point. It's possible this is being saved for Secret Wars, but I still think you could get some sort of a small role from either of them. And we of course know that the Deadpool scene that was teased in the TVA obviously has to be tied up at some point. And then I think really looking to the overall conclusion of the movie, I think there's a few different options this could go. I would have to say that there does have to be some careful consideration that it doesn't mimic Infinity War in any way, shape, or form, but I think whether Doom won or lost, I think either of these ideas could be effective. I think on one hand, if Doom won, this could be really similar to Infinity War to really set up the stakes for Secret Wars going forward, like Infinity War set up Endgame. But I think maybe this could be with an asterisk. Maybe Doom somehow does win in this, but not really many Avengers members or anyone in the 616, just the general population, are really affected like at the end of Endgame. And so maybe after Doom sets up Battleworld, the Avengers would still have the chance to defeat him in Secret Wars, even though he somehow got his way in the end. So I think that could be an interesting option for Doom winning, but it not really copying Thanos' victory in Infinity War too much. But I think a potentially even better idea would be the Avengers defeating Doom. And I think this within itself would obviously be separate enough than Infinity War and a unique twist, because I think that's what everyone is pretty much expecting. But maybe for Secret Wars or some of the MCU movies that we're going to get after this, such as Spider-Man or a potential Hulk movie, maybe somewhere in there you have Doom being revived somehow, or even a different variant of Doom comes into the picture, potentially an even more powerful version of Doom. So I think a lot of those potential plot points could be developed, and I think that would be an interesting avenue. But those are just my thoughts on 10 potential big things that Avengers Doomsday could address. Feel free to let me know your ideas or speculation for this movie, and I'll see you later.